here we go. You guys ready? Sending me some energy. Green on. Flow like water, right? But anyway, good morning, Chili Dogs. What you focus on grows. Feed them horses. 3 more pots coming your guys' way. Working with porcelain again, you know? After yesterday, I got some good ones out of the porcelain yesterday. Instead of, open up some new bags, I went to the pottery supply store and I got some more clay. But let's finish off the porcelain and be done with it so we don't have to look at it again, right? Anyway, I'm gonna get right into it here. I'll see you guys over there in a second. Green off. Camera B. Push down, push down. There we go. A little bit of water right at this base. First thing that we want to do is seal this off, right? Awesome. So now that's sealed. Now we can push on it without it wanting to rip off, right? So I'm going to project that left hand forward and use that wheel pushing up against that left hand to get that pretty centered, right? I slowly am down and I walk this back towards myself, right? And I can tell right at the base, it's not like perfectly centered here. So I'm going to slowly cut off some of that and I'm going to go back in and make sure I'm having some more tension right at that underside of my palm on my left hand. So I'm in and I'm slowly walking that off-center clay out. Very slow. Have it nest, loosen up that pressure, there we go. I have my hands right above that knuckle and I'm using kind of my middle finger as the blade to cut through all that clay. A lot of people will have some force on this outside. I felt if you really allow the wheel to cut through on this interior here, you shouldn't really have to worry about being too, what the heck? Why does that happen? Camera C, you can't be out of battery, right? We're back. Rare camera C owl moment. It happened yesterday though. Alright, so here we are. And I'm going to be pushing inwards on this interior here, right? Just a little bit. Just to make sure. And I got to be careful because sometimes if you push too hard, you're going to push some of that clay into the wall and it's going to be not sealed properly, right? You're going to have water in between that layer on the interior surface. I don't really know if that makes sense how I'm explaining it. Sometimes if you have 2 solid chunks of clay and water gets in between, like look at all the clay that's on my hands, this is not going to want to stick together, right? This is going to want to like slide away. So you want to make sure that you only have dry clay touching dry clay. So sometimes when I push this interior clay, it folds right at that corner, which can cause some troubles later on when I go for a pull. Alright, so do you see how I have this lip here? So what I'll do is I'm slowly going to hold on to this like a handlebar and I'm going to use my chicken wing here to slowly blend this into be one homogeneous ring. I feel like sometimes, it's getting a little bit off center, but I wouldn't really worry about that at this point. I feel like it's more important to get that to be one homogeneous thing. We're smoothing this out. We're gonna bring our best friend of the stream. Hey guys, it's me, Llama here. We're gonna get ready for a nice volcano pull, making a porcelain volcano. Let's get into it. Bite right on that rim. And although it might not seem like it, this left hand is pushing forward while this right hand is slowly pulling back. And it's that coming across center, not pulling towards the center, but coming across and past center. That's going to bring that inwards, right? Now you have a little volcano. I'm slowly going to be pushing in. And sometimes you got to be careful, because when you're doing a pull like this, if you pull too, if you cut through the clay too much, right, you're going to get it thin at that base and it's going to get too thick. So you want to make sure once you get about this halfway through, you kind of slow that pull down a little bit and really focus on thinning out some of that wall thickness and get it really nice and even, right? Oftentimes I find at this bottom part I get pretty thin. I'm using my finger and I'm pushing down first, right? And something that I see a lot of people don't do is, do you see how I left some of this clay here? So this is going to be where I make the skirt of later. But sometimes if it's not perfectly entered or centered, right, you can push this down and recenter it from the base right here and then make your pulls. Sometimes I think a lot of people aren't starting from an on-center base, and then if you don't start from an on-center base, everything else is just going to get off-center above it, right? And so for me, I start with that on-center base, and I created that by pushing off this off-center stuff down. So now the pulls are going to be pretty on-center. So that's a way, if you ever get too freaked out if your thing's not centered enough, it doesn't need to be perfectly centered, it just needs to be centered where you start your pull, right? And again, you find this little bump, and you slowly walk this up, and get some of that nice thinness there. My interior hand above my exterior fingers. Now I have this bump, and as soon as I have that bump, that's when I can start going, right? And watch me just slowly walk this up, right? That's the key with a lot of making these nice pulls. It's being very slow, maintaining that bump all the way through this top here. Not freaking out because we have a little bit of a wobble, but we're not trying to catch that wobble. We're finishing off that pull. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I slowed down a little bit too much. 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. I don't know why sometimes on my wheel, you guys see how sometimes on one side, if I go slow enough, it will just kind of pause? I feel like my wheel's getting a little bit too, it's not an old wheel, but I do use it a lot. Just because we're thinning that out, it's going to twist downwards a little bit easier. So slowly walking this out. And I think if I just keep on spreading my fingers out, I can get it pretty wide. I'm going to chill out right there. Kiss this rim. You can see on one side I didn't go tall enough, so it's starting to act a little bit funky on the top. But we're just going to let that exist. And there we go. Kiss that rim here. Okay. And then we'll start right here. Okay. And the key with these tendrils, the rip stays there. So these things aren't, like, I don't fill them with water. So the rip, I mean, it probably got collapsed in over top of. So realistically, if I glaze this object, it probably would seal. But I usually don't really mess around with those moments where it rips, right? I kind of let them exist. I've found that if you kind of try to touch at them and peck at them, it looks like you're trying to peck at them, right? And so I let them exist, and sometimes they're not even really even noticeable. And if these aren't really functional pots, it doesn't really matter anyway, right? So I'm going to slowly push this in just a tad. Curl this over just a little bit, right? And so these are those... Bring this up from wherever that wobble is. You're going to slowly lower your right hand down. Sit there, and slowly bring that back up to that left hand, right? And whether you see that wobble again, that's okay. Push forward just a tad, and then walk that back up to that left hand. There you go. And then we're going to swap over to camera C. Hammer fist coming right down on top. look at where my hand is, right? Always on this third over here. If you split the clay up into thirds, I'm always on that left third. All right, right down to this base. Curling that in. Getting ready to push down. Pushing down, pushing down, pushing down. Getting ready to get it all centered, making sure I have my elbow locked into my hip, using my body weight as resistance to that clay, pushing down and slowly walking my right hand outward to that edge, bringing all that off-centered clay out, around, and right into this hand. Look at my hand. Where do you not see the clay? All in that base of my wrist. Right behind that, that's my elbow, or my elbow's down here, but my wrist. And my elbow's planted right on my hip bone, right? So that's where all that pressure is. Where's the clay building up? All in the palm of my hand. This is where you don't have tension. I think a lot of times people have way too much tension in their palms and not enough on the back of their wrist. A little water. Again, right down to the bottom base, pushing in ever so slightly. Define this bump just a little bit. And what I'm noticing is at that base I had some problems that wasn't perfectly even. So even if I get a nice kind of pull on this top part, it's not going to matter because it's going to get a little bit off-center through the second pull. Take a breath. You got to ask the clay, hey clay, do you have a quest for us? The clay says yes. You're going to push in at this base. And the clay says, I'm going to give you a bump, and I want you to take this bump all the way to the top, right? Define that bump slowly. Those interior fingers are above the exterior fingers, and you can see that bump. And the rest of this, they call it a pull, but think of it more as a lift, and just slowly lift up this clay. Think of it as a slug trying to find his next meal. He's hungry. He can only move as a slug speed, and like I said, I'm going to go out a little bit to reduce that tension on the bottom, right at the top there, right? So there we go. Great. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3. Slowly backing up that spiral. And if we wanted to twist more in the middle, we'll chill out for a second. Camera B. Slowly pop this down. And I'm going to start seeing that twist right up. And I'm going to be very slow with how I kick this out to this top rim. Slow that down just a little bit. Right off, kiss that rim. And there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, we have an even number. We can turn these into petals at the base of our tree here. So we skip one, and every time we skip, we create a petal. When it's an even number, you can make some nice little petals right at that base. You can see from the camera how it kind of looks like from above. But here we go.
I said, are you ready for some pottery?
Green off. Pushes down. A little bit of water on there. Llama's gonna bite down that rim, slowly walking back towards us as that left hand is pushing forward to create our volcano. Why do we want the volcano? We want the volcano because if we have control of this top rim, everything's gonna be a lot easier. Now all we need to do to get height is push in that base and go straight up. Instead of otherwise, sometimes you have too much tension if you have that thick clay and it gets wide, it's hard to bring that back in. But here we go, guys. We're gonna go for a little pull, a little bit of water, knuckle in, here we go. Slowly, find that bump, bring that in. Not too much, making sure our other knuckle doesn't kind of bump into that top there. And there we go, first pull, right? First couple pulls, what are they for? What are they for? You're trying to get height on the first pulls? No, 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 no. You're trying to actually get the walls equalized. Here we go. A little bit of water in there. Again, collar this in ever so slightly. Let's pull. What am I making? I'm making a tree. Again, I'm gonna have my finger right on this outside here. Pushing in, asking that clay for that quest. That quest is this bump. Slowly gonna pop this bump up. As soon as you find that bump, you're just gonna walk that up. Like a slug finding his next meal. We're not stopping. You see a wobble? You don't care. You keep moving forward. I call it crown energy. Imagine the clay is just a peasant and you are the king of the clay. There we go, guys. Here we go, right down to the base. Again, some more water, getting ready. And then walk up this twist. You ready, guys? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could probably do a 7, so hold on, let me get over there. 7. Okay. We gotta emphasize right before that, we had a little oopsie. There we go, we're back online. And slowly walk this up, right, guys? A little bit too fast. And this is going to want to collapse really weird. So what we're going to do at this base, we're going to make sure we kind of push some of these moments in. Because we want it to twist in this middle. And so you can see I'm using my finger to kind of push that in. And we're going to slowly twist that up. There we go. Camera B. We're not done. We got to slowly get this top outwards a little bit. And there we go, we got our tree. Kiss that rim just a little bit. There we go. Hold hands right at the top. And look at the amount of tension that adds to the piece, right? And so all of a sudden, we gave it something a little bit more of sculptural element, breaking out of that realm of pottery, right, guys? Alright, smoothing out some of this bottom, and we're going to give this a slight little bump here. So we're snake this, snake that in, a little wave. Snake that, and a little wave. Get some looseness on that bottom, really laying into that flowiness. And here we go. Smoothing out that base. That's number 3. Camera A. Goated 1. Starting off with this one. The thing I'm thinking about this one today, this one is the shine of the day. This is the sunlight, right? Why I'm liking this one, I think the double tendril is really starting to do something with that lean on that top. Almost look like it's ready to go to bed, right? Resting its hands right on, or resting its head right on those hands or shoulders, whatever you want to call it. When you break away from pattern and those double tendrils start functioning like appendages, changes the whole entire dynamic, especially in compared to this one here. This one I like, it's a little bit more uniform. That twist is really nice. The top is a little bit more even, and the base has those petals. But what I think it's happening here, it's really in that realm of pottery, where this one starts branching out to that sculpture. All of a sudden we got that one on the top. What am I liking about this one? Not too much. I do like something about it though, is the tendrils. I did a triple tendril, still representing that pattern, still a little bit more uniform than the one over here. But I always say you gotta have the mundane to exaggerate the extraordinary. I'll see you guys later. I'll give you one more pottery edit. Goated 1. Dang! It was almost clean, and then it got messed up, my phrase. All right, one more time. Goated 1. Goated 1. There we go.